Because okay, we should be live, and I think I may have solved the problem. I'm hoping. I am hoping. So I'm trying to find where everybody is. Okay, YouTube told me that we are streaming live there, and there you are. So now I'm gonna listen. Say something, Josh. We should be live. I'm trying to find where everybody is. Oh, it's clear. You're coming in clear, Mike TV. YouTube told me that we are streaming live there, and there you are. So now I'm gonna listen. Okay.
I'm here.
Boy, you have something open? I keep hearing a Do you have two things open, Josh?
I'm here.
How come you don't hear me? You have something open?
I can hear you through the phone. I can't hear you through the computer, so I'm going to get this real quick.
You have to turn the phone on.
I'm going to close it in 1 second.
Okay. Hello.
You have something open? I can hear you through the phone. I can't hear you through the computer, so I'm going to get this real quick.
You have to turn the phone
on. I'm going to close it in 1 second.
Okay. You know, it might be better if you have a show, Josh, and me on. Now the audio is much better. Hi, Jill. What do we sound like to you guys? So Joshua, you hear me? What is that all about? Testing, hello. Craziness. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm not going to ask anything other than I'm just going to say hallelujah and get rid of that. Okay. So you can hear me now.
I can hear you now. Yep. Aaron says he can see and hear us.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, there we go. Good. You know what?
They're saying it's great.
So, as they say in show business, from the top.
Why not?
You know what? I just said, well, listen, we will be sitting somewhere in Farmington or elsewhere in the world one day, looking back when you've won an Emmy, and no, when you're like governor, when you're governor of Minnesota, we'll be sitting back at the governor's mansion, laughing our heads off about that. So, anyway, good. I'm ready now. I'm feeling pretty good.
All right.
There you go. We don't quit. That's one thing.
We don't stop. Relentless.
Right.
Relentless.
So, this food drive. The people that were there, have you heard from any of the people that received the goods? Have you, outside of, hey, you got any more? Have you heard anything from them about what that did for them that day?
Absolutely. I heard via multi-mediums, whether it's text or messenger. I had several residents reach out to me personally, and I've heard through others that were volunteers and involved with the event that they had reached out directly, just saying how big of a difference it made. A huge amount of appreciation, a huge amount of gratitude. They couldn't believe that it had come together that fast, and just overwhelming joy that everything had taken place and they were able to have an ends to the means in the short term. So it was very fulfilling.
So in your town, are there like food pantries? I know Mary Kennedy has her thing, the closet, or what's it called?
It's Caring Hearts in Action. So
Caring Hearts
we had,
Connection.
yep.
Were there other like, do you guys have like soup kitchen or any other pantries where you had to like, where you call them and say, let's do this together?
Correct. We have the Farmington Food Shelf. It's part of 360 Communities, but it's housed in one of our district buildings. And that was one of the first problems was when that order came out and our district closed, the food shelf had to close. So they took 500 to 700 pounds and they moved it to the church at Faith Church where we had this event, 2 weeks ago or whatever. They will be opening back up here, I believe, next week or the following week. I'll get the dates. But we also have our free community meal at Faith Church every Wednesday night from 5:30 to 6:30. So we've got every Wednesday. That's been going on since the first of the year.
So what are they doing? Are they just coming and picking it up now with this social distancing stay in place?
Correct. Right now it's a to-go order, so it's a prepared warm meal, some cold items, salad bar, things of that nature, but it's all prepackaged, and then they're put out in bags, and it's drive up, and then we're also getting volunteer drivers to take them to the residents that either are, self-quarantined or stuck at home, can't drive, whatever. But I believe they served 140 meals last Wednesday.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
So now that, it's a very different world today, and it wasn't just as recently as when you guys pulled up this food distribution. With everything that's happening with people, kids at home, people are having to stay at home, people are losing their jobs. Have you guys already started building putting the building blocks in place in case you need to do this for, I'm sure, there's definitely going to be the need, but are you going to try to do it again? Because things are getting worse before they're getting better. So do you ever think that, we've opened Pandora's box, everyone's going to be coming to us because we started this trend? I think that's a fair question.
Absolutely, and it is a great question because what we did was in response to the immediate need. Now, we've heard industry experts say that there's not a food supply chain problem, there's a demand problem. And if everybody just uses a little bit of reserve right now and patience and allows the system to work as it's designed, there is not a food shortage problem. It's a distribution and an access problem based on demand. So in our community, I don't believe that we're going to need to do another event to this scale. However, the need for our residents is always going to be there. And it's up to us as community leaders and faith leaders to identify the system by which we're going to proceed with that. I see it being done through our local food shelf. We certainly have no shortage of volunteers for delivering the food. I think the platform is there. I think the scale of it will be significantly smaller, but that need it's going to be there forever, unfortunately. But we as a community have to continue to pull together and make sure that we can continue to distribute to those that don't have access to it right away.
Right. Next question is, okay, you guys were able to pull this thing together in 4 days. You got all these people to help. As nice as I would like to think this world is, and that it could happen like that any and everywhere, I know that's not the case. Let's talk about the spirit of the people. And what is it about where you live? Is it the close proximity that you guys have to each other because it's a pretty small community? What do you think the driving factor is that gets so many of your people so pumped up to be of service to others? Because I wish it was something you guys could just bottle and ship out to communities all over the world, but it's never going to be.
I think you can, though, and yes, it's more difficult in a city of 100 or 200,000, and we are fortunate that we have 23,000 in our city right now. But the city of Farmington, we hold community tight. Our town cares about everything, and I'm not speaking for every resident. I'm just talking for what I believe to be the majority. The majority of our residents are highly involved in the school system. They know their teachers by first name. They're familiar with the families, our youth sports, our arts, band, anything that takes place in the city of Farmington, most people know about. And even if they're not involved directly, their neighbors involved. They're involved indirectly. They're a monetary sponsor. somehow we managed to get our hands in everything. And that sense of community pride, I mean, here we had our community expo. It was at our high school. It was in January. It was only for Farmington businesses. It's one of our biggest events. There's 2,000 people that come to this event every year. And all we're doing is promoting and promoting and promoting. And there are so many self-employed business owners and, stay-at-home business owners, people that work from their home that are constantly working in and out of networking groups, other organizations and affiliations. We're scrappers. Like, we have a mentality of, we're just going to get it done. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's food today or if it's building up our small businesses like this week, we had a huge outpouring of all of our small businesses. We do what we can to take care of our residents and our businesses and the people of Farmington. Like, we will go down swinging.
Are people starting to lose jobs there?
I've heard of a few residents that have lost their jobs. We've had a few businesses that have had to reduce staffing in the short term. Most of them are food-based, so it's our restaurants that are having to lay off part-time employees. But they're finding ways to bring those employees back for drivers or these to-go orders, other things that they're trying to do to make sure that their businesses thrive through this. But yes, unfortunately, there will likely be some fallout. We won't quite know until this progresses a little further, but right. I think every city is going to feel some form of that. Absolutely.
Now, here's how we're going to switch gears up a little bit and move into this next phase of the interview. Last night, my husband and I did a live where he's a therapist, provided 6 strategies for coping with coronavirus quarantine. Because, one thing that a lot of people aren't talking about is the possibility for some form of PTSD. Because this is a traumatic experience, whether we realize it in its fullness yet or not, it is. And there are things that you can put in place to help when you get to the other side of something. And you're a veteran, you're a disabled veteran, but you also are the founder of the Farmington Suicide Awareness Group. So I know you know about the issue with veterans and PTSD and the high rate of suicide and all that goes with that. So I want to talk to you now, if it's okay. First of all, I'm curious as to what was it? I figure you must have been touched in some shape or form by suicide somewhere to prompt you to start this organization where you merged with the Farmington Mental Health Alliance. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. So when I was 19, I was in the Marine Corps, and I lost my dad to suicide. And at the age of 19, you're displaced. You're in a different geographical region. You don't have a support system around you. It was tough. It took a long time. Here for a 19-year-old to become an adult anyway. Yeah, it's tough. But to deal with that, it affected me for several years. And as I got older, into my late 20s, early 30s, I was affected more by suicide. I had a high school friend that was lost to suicide. A week and a half ago when we did our community food drive, I lost my first mentor to suicide, another resident of Farmington. So
really? Right there in Farmington?
Yeah. Thursday night when I came home from the community food drive, emotional high, and I got the news of my mentor and one of the groomsmen in my wedding, we lost to suicide just a week ago. And so even before that happened, it's been close to me. I've had too many deaths to count as a result of suicide. And so I started a grassroots organization 2 summers ago, summer of 18, and it was literally a group of 8 to 10 people. We're not health professionals. We're all in varying career fields, but we mutually agreed that we've all been affected by it. We need to start doing something with it. And it kind of morphed into more awareness beyond just our city. So I got in contact with Shannon Bailey, who works for Dakota County in specifically in suicide and mental health, and I've met with her. I've gotten to meet other community leaders, and we met Dr. Jim Olaf from Farmington Lutheran Church, who had the Farmington Mental Health Alliance. So we merged these 2 groups. We just had another virtual meeting last night. Basically what we're trying to do is on a community level, spread awareness, increase information, offer classes for just awareness, education, certifying through different organizations like NAMI, just finding a way, because statistically, I believe it's 1 in 3 or 1 in 5 people that you run into are going to be directly affected by suicide. It's a number 3 leading cause of death for ages 10 to 34. It's insane.
It is insane. We had a suicide death in my family just 30 days ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
My sister's husband, yeah, just 30 days ago. And never before, this isn't something that's been a part of our family's legacy ever that we know of. And, when something like that blindsides you, you go, because you think you know people. You think and you know what I hate the most about it? I get what they say about the victims being the survivors, a lot of it, because I don't think there's one of us who hasn't, at least at one point since the incident, gone back over and thought about that last conversation with the person. What did I miss? What could I have done differently? So I want to know, when people are dealing with you or coming to you at the suicide awareness group, is a part of the awareness enlightening people, if you will, on what to look for, what to listen for, changes in behavior patterns. What is it we're not doing right that so many are slipping through the cracks? Because everybody, it's just like back in the day when you used to, before the opiate addiction, a lot of people, if you said dope fiend or drug addict, they pictured a long, oily-haired person sitting at the exit of a freeway ramp holding a sign with a syringe hanging out of their arm with a tourniquet on it. And that isn't the face of it at all. It's our neighbor, it's our bank teller, it's the school teacher, it's everybody. And I think that, so when it comes to suicide signs of potential, it's not just somebody, who's painted themselves inside their room, boarded the door up, that sort of thing. These people are people that are being affected by this mental illness or whatever it is. I don't know.
It is. It is a form. You talked earlier about PTSD. PTSD is a mental illness. It absolutely is. There is treatment for it. Again, I'm not a doctor. I speak from a position of experience, not professional licensure, but it absolutely is a mental illness. And it's going to affect nearly everyone in one way, shape, or form, whether it's through being a surviving spouse, friend, a coworker. Suicide awareness is ultimately about identifying the risk factors. So someone can present perfectly fine. You or I, everything is perfect, and then one day something happens and that choice is made and they go through with it.
So how were you feeling, Josh, after that happened just a week or so ago? You have this organization, you're one of the founders, you're the founder. This person was your mentor, lives in your community, was a groomsman in your wedding. And so I'm not saying that it's shame on you, no, but speak to the fact that if you can be that close on both sides of the aisle, you're involved in a suicide awareness program, you were close to this person, but it still happens. That tells me, wow, that's how powerful this is.
Absolutely. And you couldn't have said it any better. That shows you that even with all of the resources around you, it can still happen. It's a choice. And the correct answer is, I don't have the answer as to how we fix that. We can flood awareness. We can put all the tools and resources out there. I got a phone call from a friend of mine earlier this week saying that someone he knew was talking about suicide. I said, you have to ask the hard question. You have to ask her if she's in a position, does she plan on hurting herself? Does she have a plan to do this? You need to go to her right now. You need to pick up the phone, call 911. You have to do what you have to do to stop this, because there may not be a tomorrow. And when it's that close to you, it can still happen. And it's unfortunate, but I think nationally, suicide awareness is drastically undervalued and underfunded. It is something that everyone is going to deal with. I mean, it's so sad that, again, it's a number 3 leading cause of death, 10 to 34. Right. And no one even wants to say the word. It's a stigma.
That's my point. Exactly.
You have to talk about it. It's so weird. I had a conversation with someone and I said, I'm not going to generalize anyone, but I'm going to say that, when you talk about sex education, you do it for prevention and abstinence. You don't do it thinking that your kids are going to run out and have sex. You don't talk about drug use and shy away from it because you think your kids or someone else is going to run out and try drugs because you talked about it. But for some reason, we think that when we talk about suicide, we're going to all of a sudden give kids or someone the idea that they're going to go out and do it. And that is not the case.
No.
It is not the case. You have to talk about it. You have to, kids are on video games, killing other people. Like, there's a desensitizing that's going on in media, and going back to the violence thing we talked about earlier, negative sells. Why is it that a shooting or a mass murder, we're like compelled to watch it, but when there's 2,000 people receiving food, it's like, that just kind of happens. It's unreal. Like, we're so desensitized to it that we have to be willing to say suicide is a problem. Suicide is real. It is the end of life. And we have to be willing to identify the risk factors and talk about it, and then get those in need to the resources that are available, whether it's hotline, crisis centers.
What do you have, a hotline?
They're nationally, locally, almost every county has a crisis hotline.
Yeah.
There's a plethora of resources that we have to continue to beat that drum, because it is, I don't want to use the term pandemic because it's right now in a different way, but
yeah.
It's a real issue that we need to solve.
Now, did you have a spike in conversation regarding the awareness group and what you guys do after what happened just a week or so ago in your community?
Not quite. It's anytime it happens, there's a lot of uncertainty, and I've messaged with his spouse. I have not talked to her personally, but I do know that here he was a school teacher.
Wow.
People in that circle of friends and close family will learn about it, and it's something that has to be talked about. Like, we have to have that conversation of, this was someone to me who I would have said, last person. There is no way. You would have never thought.
Right.
And the irony was, when my dad killed himself back in '99, my mentor was there for me. We had a lot of conversation, and he was a father figure to me for several years. Again, he was in my wedding. This is why we talked. I just ran into him 3-4 weeks ago. We were talking about fishing, and I would have thought of anyone who had firsthand that he would have reached out, and he didn't.
Well, again, yeah. So did you have that conversation with yourself, and how did it sound? How did that conversation go when you're like sitting there stunned, going, how did I, of all people, not know this or not see this coming? That just speaks volumes to me about how sneaky this thing can be, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, if I lived right down the street from a suicide awareness clubhouse, I would probably drive past it, jog past it, walk past it, thinking, that has nothing to do with me. Good for them, until what happened a month ago in our family happens. So anyway, where can people go to get, is there what would you recommend people do if they're interested in learning more about how to identify the warning signs, or to be of support to someone, or if you're feeling some kind of way yourself?
That's a great question, because there is a huge amount of resources. You have, again, immediate. So if you or someone around you is in immediate need, and you recognize that the situation is real and it may result in suicide, you have to call 911. You have to call the crisis lines. You have to get someone else professionally involved to handle it. They have the training. They have the professional background to handle it accordingly. But most importantly, it's on the front side of it. It's identifying the risk factors. So like right now, there's a lot of conversation amongst social media as people are doing these virtual meetings. Just check in with the well-being of everyone you know. Hey, how are things going? How are things really going? Is there anything I can do to help? What do you need from me? How can I support you? You just have to keep that dialogue open, knowing that even then, it can still happen. but you have to do everything you can to mitigate the risk factors. Locally within our group, we're going through and we're identifying some of the immediate needs. So is it getting those involved for training? Is it finding, passing on the resources? So from the county level on down, NAMI, all these other organizations that have a plethora of resources available, it's getting them in front of people. It's just the spreading of information is all it is right now. It's just making people realize that they can pick up the phone, they can go to a website, they have to do something. You can't just sit and stew with it.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. And I do encourage everyone out there, learn more. Just like the old campaign used to say on television, the more you know. The more you know, the better you can be, and the better we can all do. So thank you for that, Joshua. Let's talk about the service-disabled veteran-owned small business. I'm a vet, and I know a lot of vets. I thank you for your service. And
Yes, sir.
yeah, you're welcome. But, I don't think I've ever seen I've never seen a business that was very clever too. You put veteran right in the name of your business. That's a great thing to do because a lot of us love to support our vets. Can you explain to people what service-disabled veteran status means? Because I know a lot of people are not familiar with that. And what is the distinction of that? And how does that make your business different from the next business?
So, again, first, thank you for your service. As an active duty Marine Corps, while I was active duty in the Marine Corps, I had a problem with my right knee. And I ultimately had surgery, and because of that, I was not able to go back to 100% duty. And they label you, or you get the designation as service-connected disabled veteran. I was rated at 20% based on what had happened to me. But anyone who has a service-connected disability, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's identified when you're on active duty, but it could happen 10 years later where you experience hearing loss. And the VA determines that hearing loss is directly connected to your time while serving. They'll make it service connected. And you're subject to other VA benefits and things that come up. But that's ultimately what makes you a service disabled veteran.
Awesome.
My business, Veteran Design Build, I'm a licensed and insured general contractor. I put veteran in there because since I was little, Old Glory, American Pride, the red, white, and blue, stars and stripes, it's always been core to me that if I was going to put everything I could into my business, why would I not have it be something that was centered around being a veteran? Because that's something I'm damn proud of. As a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, the designation itself gives you access to certain SBA loans, different lending opportunities. There's government bid opportunities that you can have. Organizationally, it doesn't do anything for me per se, but it certainly, because our pride of veterans, it helps. When people know that a veteran's coming to my home to work, I think there's a little bit less reservation. There's less hesitation. They know they're helping the greater good. And what else can you say? You just,
right.
Proud to be a vet.
Purpose. Man, yes. Best decision I ever made. That, you could have probably done a little bit better, Air Force, but we're not going to hold that against you.
You want to hear a funny story? I'll make it 30 seconds long.
Sure.
So my cousin's in the Air Force, and when fall of '97, when I was looking at going into the military, he had recommended the Air Force. So I called the Air Force recruiting station and I asked for directions. They thought I was messing with them, so they gave me directions to the Marine Corps recruiting station. So I roll up and I stand in front of the Marine Corps recruiting station. I go, "There's no Air Force here." I open up the door. I said, "Do you guys know where the Air Force recruiting office is?" And the recruiter stood up, and I won't use the profanity, but told me to basically get out of here. And I walked outside and I went, "No, that's what I want to be a part of." So I walked back in and I signed up, and 18 days later I was sitting in San Diego.
Oh my goodness.
Shame on that Air Force recruiter.
Well, I wasn't planning on doing it either. I mean, I didn't even drive to the recruiting place. I was waiting. I bought a movie ticket an hour earlier than I thought. I had an extra hour to kill. And I didn't know what to do. And I had walked to the theater from our house. So I just looked across the street, and there was a sign in a window that said, "Aim high, come watch a free video." And that's all she wrote. So, yeah, I went and saw the movie, and then 2 days later, I was at a Met station with my hand in the air. And there you go. Best decision I made, or was made for me by what is greater. Let's talk about this write-in campaign. So how did that happen when you became a city council member? Were you just sitting at home minding your own business, and were people nudging you with their elbows saying, "Hey, you need to do this"? Was there a lack of people that were interested, or did you just decide, listen, because I'm assuming that the reason you wrote in was because you didn't do it, you didn't plan a campaign out like most people and say signs in yards or whatever you do. What was that all about? And obviously now you love what you're doing, because now you want to go and throw your hat in the ring from there. So I'm going to make this a two-part question. So tell us about how that happened, what you do within your community in that capacity, because I really don't have any idea what council members do. And then what is it now that makes you feel that you could be the mayor, or that you should be the mayor of Farmington? And if you are, what do you plan on doing with it?
That's a four-part question.
Yeah, it really is, but I think we're counting.
Keep me on track so I don't miss them here.
Yeah.
We'll start with the write-in. So summer of 18, I'd had ideas that I wanted to be involved in city government. I wanted to be involved in my community in general. But August of 18, it came out that we were having, basically our police chief they were entering into a separation agreement. So our police chief was, for one reason or another, no longer going to be our police chief. And I won't beat that anymore, because it's a pretty bad, it's unfortunate how it happened and why it happened. But the net of that was, I went to a council meeting, and we had, I believe, 300 residents there, and they were just upset with how the council had handled the situation and everything surrounding our police chief. So I said, tell you what, I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I think the communication could have been better. So I raised my hand. I said, write me and I'll do it. And this was August 20th. Well, the filing deadline for council was August 14th. So I could not file to be on the ballot. And people came up and they said, are you serious? Do you really want to do this? I said, if Josh Hoyt says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. So let's roll. And it was a crash course. Now, mind you, July of 18, I started my business. August of 18, I did a write-in. So I started two things, and I ran them at the same time. Both of them worked out tremendously.
Wow.
But with the write-in campaign, you had to understand what made a legitimate write-in. So I had to talk to the state and all the voting regulations to find out, how do we actually get my name to count? And so we came up with a crafty sign that had my name, actually it was written in script. And then it was an orange sign with a black oval that was filled in, and then my name, and it said, write in Joshua Hoyt for city council. And it was 78 days nonstop. For 78 days, we beat the drum. It was conversations at the end of driveways, talking to people about, here, I have to tell you in a Cliff Notes version what I've been doing professionally for 20 years. Like, this is me. People in the community know me. They know that I have credibility. They know I'm in good standing, and I'm going to be the voice of the people. City council reports to the residents. So in the organizational chart, it's residents, city council, city administrator, and then staff. And I felt that we had lost sight of that we were not necessarily, again, my impression at the time was that we were not reporting to the residents for one reason or another. But 78 days, we rallied, and there were 7 ballot candidates. I finished number 2, 2,326 votes. It was, as I found out, my write-in candidacy and being successful, it came from the highest population city in Minnesota state history. It just doesn't happen unless there's a compelling reason, there's a death, something else. You're either on the ballot or you're not. Write-ins typically don't. You're always going to get the votes out there, but write-in platforms, they don't typically win. And we did. So with that, I was sworn in just after the first year, 2019. I just finished my first year as an elected official. But to answer your second point, city council. So city council is a governing body. In our city, we're what's called a weak mayor, which basically means that we have five elected officials, 4 council members and 1 mayor. All of them have the same statutory authority. So all of our votes carry the same weight. The mayor ultimately is the leader of the city. He or she will sit at the dais and facilitate the meetings. Their signature is the one that becomes form on all the policy. But city council is there to work with other subcommittees and boards and commissions within each individual city to basically make financial decisions and define policy. Okay. Nuts and bolts of it is you're there as a policy maker. My impression of an elected official is that you are also a community advocate. So that's not on anyone else. That's just my personal choice, is that if I'm going to be an elected official within the city that I live in and to the residents that I serve, I need to be out in front, working with small businesses, having the conversations, building community unity, working with school districts and outreach. I think that can be done individually for the benefit of the council. It's not, we're not senators. We're not state representatives. We have 23,000 residents. We don't have, several 100,000 that we represent. So I think you have to be in the weeds, working with as many as possible. And that's why I wanted to step forward for mayor. Was I do have reach. I have a following. People understand that I'm not going to talk. I'm going to walk. Mm-hmm. You'll hear me, but
there you go.
Hit that bell.
I did.
I'll talk about it, but I'm going to be the first one on the field and the last one off the field.
There you go.
So I didn't say, hey, go get food, go do this, go do this. I got out there and I did it, and I pulled people with me, and I use the hashtag Stronger Together. I say, community, the community needs to be. People are starting to really take onto it, and I love it. It's just that's what community outreach is. That's what leadership is getting people involved for a common cause or one item, something. Just work together, make it amazing. I love it.
It is amazing. All that you do seems to be amazing. There seems to be a cloud cover of amazingness, if you will, over Farmington and what you guys are doing out there. I am just so excited and so honored to have met you all through the everybody from Mary Canada to let me go. I don't want to mess up the last name. Toft, I think it is, Jessica. Yeah. And yourself. And I want to give you an opportunity here before we get out of here. Let's just say, and thank you for, we fought big time, and it's still not as clear as it could be, but at least some of the words are getting through, and we're able to do this. Thank God for that. Let me ask you this. Let's play a little game here, if you will. Indulge me. If we were watching your first commercial for your plea for mayordom, become mayor, and it started with, my name is Joshua Hoyt, and if you vote for me for mayor, I promise to
provide leadership by example and build our community from within.
Oh, you've already got your signs ready, don't you?
Here, I'm not so sure that we're going to put up signs this year. I'm not so sure that we're going to actively campaign in the traditional methods. The things that I do within our network, and people that know me know this, I do not like to say the word I. When I talk about my business, I say we. It is me, but it's my group of subcontractors and teams.
That's right.
When I talk about Farmington and being mayor, we do this. This is something we're doing together. I'll be the flashlight, but we need to do this together. I have no problem, and I enjoy being that beacon for people, but it's leadership by example. It's getting out in the community, being deeply involved with as many things as you can, with as many people as you can, and you build from the inside out. Your point earlier, you're talking about how do you replicate this in other communities. You put your feet down and you get to work. It's that simple. You go to your network, you go to your friend, anyone that's close to you, and you beat that drum. You talk about the message and what you want to do, and then you put action to it. You do that, people will eventually buy in, and they will eventually get on board. They will volunteer, they will help, they will support the cause, and you can do it in any community. You just have to be willing to fight through the naysayers, the obstacles, the adversity, the constraints. Fight through it all. You can literally do anything you want. Just bust your tail off until till you get there.
Until you get there. That's right. Fake it till you make it. Right. Just keep that's it. Stay vested. So last question. Let's fast forward through to the last season, to the very end of the last season of Joshua Hoyt's life. Not to be morbid, but if you were to be floating up in the corner of the room where your funeral was being staged, and you were able to hear your own eulogy, what would you want to hear? What do you hope to hear?
I hope to hear from my spouse, my family, anyone that was involved, anyone that knew me, was affected by me. I would just want them to say, like, that dude genuinely cared. Like, he genuinely cared. He did everything he could to better me, my life, any opportunities. He just genuinely cared. Because I think people miss that right now. People don't realize that, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's not a lot of truth out there. It's a lot of fiction. We're missing that genuine drive of, that dude cares. He cares for me. He's doing everything he can, and he made a difference. And then to have them go and act on that is, you talk about empowerment. Like, when I see people going out and just doing work, whether it's starting a business or donating or volunteering, doing something because of something I've said or done. Oh my God, you talk about choking you up and like filling my what my worth is. That's it right there.
That is it.
You can't beat that.
Genuinely cared. I love it. And I love it some more. Worthy of another bell ringer. Joshua, we're out of time. I thank you so much for all that you're doing, all that you've done, but most importantly, for all that I know you're still yet to do. You're a great example. I think that the people of Farmington are a special group of people. I really feel that. I think you guys are a great example to the rest of us of what should and can be. And I look forward to having you back on here again and again and again, because I know you make me want to be a better person. You really do.
Thank you.
I mean that.
Thank you.
I really mean that. And we need more people like you. I have no doubts that you're going to do what you plan to do as far as becoming the mayor and far beyond. And the people in your community are, I'm not even going to say lucky, because I don't believe in luck. All of you are blessed because you have each other. And that's what it takes. Our world today is a modern stone soup experience, where if we each bring whatever that little thing we have in our pantry and we give it to the greater good, the collective, everyone can eat, everyone can feast. And you guys are proof of that. So thank you so much. Yes. Where can people go to continue the dialogue with you, to see what you guys are doing in Farmington, to see what you're doing? I know you have a great following. I think you're working on a podcast or maybe even your own show. Where can people stay in touch with you so they don't miss any of the great things coming down the road?
The best way to stay in touch right now is through Facebook. I'm pretty active there, and that's where I like to spread a lot of the information and messages. The other stuff we'll continue to work on, but yeah, primarily through Facebook, so they can friend request or follow me, and then I'll just keep passing information that way. Keep in touch.
Absolutely. And
thanks for having me too.
I was going to say thank you, and thank you for being such a great sport. I love you, man, and I want you to know that you have a revolving turnstile of opportunity, a megaphone, a microphone, a voice with everything that we can do from the Bathrobe Moments platform, or even from my personal brand, Loren Michaels Harris. I'll be happy to support you. The truth, everybody. This is the truth, and the truth is the only thing in this universe that will never change, nor will it change on us. If you find the truth around you, bring it close and hold it close, because let me tell you something. Everything good is based on the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you who?
God.
So help you God. Amen. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. And again, thank you for all your patience with all the stuff we dealt with. It was well worth it, and you're welcome back here anytime.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day. Hey, everybody, get out there now and have a great weekend. Do what it is we do. Love up on everyone you can. But remember, in order to give them your best, start by looking in the mirror. Give that person your best, and the rest will fall into place. That's a promise. I'll see you Monday morning when Tucker Bearden joins us right here on our next episode of Bathrobe Moments. Be blessed and be the blessing. Bye-bye. Thanks again, Josh.